to real effect. You'd be a time traveler. Time travel into the future is possible.
How does a man dressed like he's from the 1950s suddenly show up in a city 50 years later, carrying an ID from a country that no longer exists? This is the true story of Sergei Ponomarenko, the Soviet time traveler who appeared in Kiev in 2006, claiming he came from 1958. With mysterious photos, strange disappearances, and an unbelievable UFO encounter, his story challenges everything we know about time itself. Stick around, because what you're about to hear will blow your mind. The discovery in Kiev. In 2006, something strange happened in the bustling city of Kyiv, Ukraine. The police were called to help a man who looked like he was losing his way. It was clear he wasn't just another guy walking around when they found him. No one could miss the fact that Sergei Ponomarenko didn't seem to belong. He dressed in retro clothes that seemed to be from a different time, like the 1950s. He was scared and had no idea where he was or how he got there. One thing that made Sergei even stranger was the ID card he was carrying. The Soviet Union gave the ID. The Soviet Union had not existed for more than 10 years by 2006. In the early 1990s, the Soviet Union broke up, but Ukraine had already been a separate country for a long time. A young man with that kind of ID was very odd to see anywhere. The cops were most confused by the fact that Sergei's card showed his birth year as 1932. He looked like he was much younger than that, though, more like a man in his 20s. The fact that the picture on the ID card was an exact match for his face made the puzzle even stronger. How does this man look so much younger when he was born in 1932? Sergei said it was April 23, 1958, not 2006, and wouldn't agree with him. It wasn't just a guess or a claim to him, it was the truth. Despite not being able to explain how or why, he was sure he had gone forward in time. The police could not agree with this plan. It didn't seem right. How could someone live in 1958 and then appear out of nowhere in 2006? They were scared that he might be severely confused or have a mental disorder, so they asked him about his mental health. They chose to take him to a mental hospital for more care and observation because he seemed confused and told some strange stories. Sergei was put under the care of Dr. Pavlo Kudrov at the hospital. The doctor was interested but wary. The weird things Sergei said and the way he seemed calm but confused were unlike anything the hospital had seen before. Sergei didn't fight back or act mean. He just stayed quiet and seemed scared more than anything else. The quiet made his story even scarier. Sergei looked like he was from another time. His clothes, ID, and understanding of the world were all from the past. He thought that the world was still in the late 1950s, when Kyiv was very different from what it is today. There were big changes in the buildings, the people, and even the way people lived. The events Sergei went through didn't fit into the timetable that everyone knew. The cops and doctors didn't know what was wrong with this man, who looked like he was lost in time. His appearance made people wonder about things they couldn't answer. Was he really from the past, or was he just a man who was mentally ill and confused? His story made people question everything they thought they knew about time and reality. Sergei did, however, have something else that seemed to support his story. A picture. But this wasn't any old camera. It was a rare type from the 1950s that used film that wasn't made anywhere else ever again. The mystery would quickly go from being strange to being scary because of what was in the film. The picture Sergei took with that camera could change everything people thought they knew about time. When the doctors looked more closely at what Sergei had recorded, they saw pictures that seemed to freeze time from a long time ago. They weren't just old pictures, they were windows into the past that no one should have been able to see. And in those pictures was something that no one thought they would see. A glimpse of something that is very hard to explain. What did that movie show? How did Sergei get his hands on that evidence? Finally, what did it mean for the very nature of time and being? The answers are in the pictures Sergei took and the story they tell, which is so strange and scary that it makes us want to learn more. The camera and the photographs. The story of Sergei got even stranger when the cops and doctors found the camera he was carrying. It wasn't just any camera, it was a rare Yema Flex, a model that was famous in the 1950s but wasn't made ever again by 2006. The camera was unique, not only because it was old, but also because it used film that hadn't been made in decades. You could not just take this film to any picture shop and ask them to develop it. Sergei's camera is a real piece of history because it had to be handled by a professional and used special tools. The hospital hired a professional photographer named Vam Poyser to find out what was hidden on that old film. Vam knew how to work with old cameras and was excited about the chance to use such a unique piece of technology. He carefully took the film out of Sergei's camera so as not to damage the pictures that were inside. The movie was made in 1956, and it was amazing that it was still in perfect shape. It had been around for almost 50 years and showed no signs of wear or damage. It was like time had stopped for it. As Vam developed the film, strange pictures showed up that no one had seen before. The pictures showed Kiev's streets, buildings, and daily life as they were in the 1950s. People wore old clothes and walked along the paths. Cars from that time rolled down the streets, and the buildings in the city looked like they were from a long time ago. The photos show some buildings that didn't exist anymore by 2006. They had been replaced by newer buildings or torn down totally. The pictures were like a window into the past. They brought it back to life in rich detail. There were more pictures than just city scenes, though. Sergei was seen in some of them, standing next to a young woman who was thought to be his girlfriend. They were wearing the same clothes Sergei wore when he was found walking the streets in 2006. They were simple, classic clothes that looked great with the late 1950s style. The picture shows a couple having a good time on a sunny day in Kiev. These pictures made it look like Sergei wasn't just pretending or being confused. He had actually been living, or at least surviving, in that earlier time. Then the last picture on the roll came out. It was a picture that would make the story much scarier and stranger. The picture showed a strange object in the sky that looked like a bell. It looked nothing like any common aeroplane or flying machine from the 1950s or any other time. It looked like a real UFO, a flying object that could explain how Sergei could have gone through time. It wasn't just a hazy shadow or a trick of light. This picture was different from anything else anyone had seen. In no way could it be denied that it was creepy. Some people thought the story was more realistic because they believed that such an object existed and that Sergei had caught it on film. For others, it was scarier. Could this UFO in the shape of a bell have been the key that let him jump through time so quickly? Was this proof that Sergei's crazy claims were true? The implications were shocking to those who looked at the pictures. These pictures seemed to show that Sergei's story wasn't just a fantasy, proof that was caught on film. They gave hints of something that was hard to understand and went against the rules of space and time. The pictures made people wonder about things they didn't know the answers to. What if this story were based on a true event? What if Sergei was live proof that going back in time was possible? It was both exciting and scary to think about it. It made people wonder what else might be hidden in the dark corners of history, ready to be found. What other things could cameras find out? How dangerous or true are the things that lie beyond the limits of time as we know it? These questions made it even more important to look into Sergei's case right away. It wasn't just about one man lost in time if this movie were real. It was about a lot more than that. Something that might change the way people think about reality. But even though the pictures seemed to prove it, the story wasn't over yet. After the film was developed, Sergei's strange trip had more to it than meets the eye. What did he do after this was found? How did the strange things happen? What happened next would make the story even more complicated and leave everyone in a world of spooky silence and unanswered questions. The horrifying truth was still not out in the open. The UFO encounter and theoretical explanation. Before Sergei Ponomarenko showed up out of the blue in Kiev in 2006, he talked about a time that changed everything. He saw a strange flying object in the shape of a bell hovering nearby. He had never seen anything like this before, not even planes or helicopters. It was smooth, almost silent, and had a shape that looked more like a bell than anything else. It moved in ways that were hard to explain. Sergei said that this moving object was the reason he dropped out of sight in 1958, and then came back almost 50 years later. Dr. Pavlo Kudrov, Sergei's doctor, looked to the world of science to figure out what might have happened to him. His idea of relativity, which was developed by Albert Einstein, one of the most famous scientists in history, helped him. Many people have altered their perspective on time and space due to this concept. Time dilation is one of the strangest ideas in Einstein's theory. For those going close to the speed of light, it means that time doesn't always pass the same way for everyone. Imagine that you are in a spaceship that is going through space almost as fast as light. It seems like time moves more slowly to you. While you're there, time may seem to pass very quickly. But back on Earth, years may have passed. No, this is not science fiction. Experiments with very small particles moving very quickly have shown that it is true. The name for this effect is time dilation, and scientists and astronauts know about it. But we haven't moved fast enough yet to notice it for ourselves. Dr. Kudrov said that Sergei's story might be true in this way. Sergei saw a bell-shaped UFO. If it were a spaceship going very quickly, it could have taken him through time without him knowing it. While Sergei was traveling, time seemed to stand still, but to everyone else, it seemed like 50 years had passed. This idea might help explain why Sergei thought it was still 1958 when he got there in 2006. Many people think this theory sounds like the plot of the well-known science fiction story, Flight of the Navigator. A boy is taken by an alien spaceship in that story, and he comes back to Earth years later, almost the same as when he left. Similar things happened in Sergei's life, which made some people wonder if his story was true or if it was based on a story. But this idea makes me wonder about a lot of things. At this point, neither people nor anything known can travel faster than light. It needs unimaginable amounts of energy and technology that is light years ahead of what we have now. There is no solid proof that aliens with this kind of technology have come to Earth or taken people back in time. The thought that a UFO could be a time machine is interesting, but it's still just a guess. Scientists are suspicious because claims that are too good to be true need proof that is even better. Sergei's story is interesting, but there isn't much proof to back it up. The pictures he carried add to the mystery, but they don't prove that time travel or alien spaceships are real. A lot of experts think the story is either a myth or a mix of fact and fiction. People are still interested in the idea because it has some scientific truths to it. There is such a big difference between time dilation and rapid jumps through decades of time. From what we know about physics, things can't just disappear and then show up again at a different time without breaking the rules. Because Sergei's story goes against these rules, it is hard to believe without proof. Sergei's story is so interesting because it has a mix of science, mystery, and fantasy. It's close to the line between what we know and what might be possible. It makes people want to dream about what they don't know while also making them aware of how little they know right now. Along with the science, Sergei's story also shows how people want to escape the passage of time. Time runs our lives, our memories, and our plans. It's both exciting and scary to think about going back in time and jumping decades in an instant. The bell-shaped UFO that Sergei saw is a metaphor for that desire to break free from the chains of time. But Sergei's strange journey didn't end with seeing the UFO or showing up out of the blue in 2006. What happened next turned the story from being ridiculous to being very scary. Even though Sergei was in the hospital getting care, he was never seen again. He disappeared just as mysteriously as he showed up. He walked into a locked room that was caught on camera, but no one ever saw him leave. There was no trick or getaway route that would let them out. He seemed to have just disappeared. This disappearance made things even more mysterious and scary. People began to doubt everything they thought they knew about Sergei's life. What else could he do if he could just show up and then vanish? What secrets did this strange case hide? The mysterious disappearance. The weirdest part of Sergei Ponomarenko's story began while he was being watched by hospital staff. After Sergei was taken in to be watched, he was put in a secure room with locked doors, barred windows, and cameras in every area. No one could come or go from the hospital without being checked out first. But Sergei disappeared, even though security was very tight. Sergei walked into his hospital room without any problems, as seen on the security cams. He was cool and acted like he belonged there, even though no one could fully understand what he was saying. After he went in, he was never seen leaving. The staff looked everywhere for Sergei, but couldn't find him. The doors that were locked stayed shut. There were still bars on the windows. There was no secret exit or hidden path. Sergei seemed to have vanished into thin air. This act of disappearing was strange and scary. The cops, the hospital staff, and everyone else involved looked everywhere for any sign of Sergei, but they never found him. It was like he had disappeared. Not only was his departure strange, it was also impossible. There was more information that the cops looked into in order to try to figure out why Sergei was acting so strangely. They found something even stranger while they were investigating. There was a man named Sergei Ponomarenko who had been reported lost many years before, in 1960. Sergei had left Kiev without a sign and would never be seen again. Could this guy, who went missing, be the same Sergei who showed up in 2006? More research turned up more links. The woman who cops think is Sergei's girlfriend talked about her memories of him. She said that Sergei had gone missing before, in 1958, just like Sergei had said. Then, to everyone's surprise, he came back after a few days and pretended nothing had happened. In the 1970s, they saw each other again for a short time before Sergei moved on and never came back. Sergei's girlfriend got a strange package in the mail years after he went missing the second time. It was a picture. It was an old-fashioned shot that wasn't like most photos. Sergei looked older in the picture, with a beard and wrinkles, and he was standing in front of a city skyline that had never been seen before. It looked like the buildings were from the future, around the year 2050, because they were bigger and more modern. There was a note with the picture that said Sergei would be back soon. This strange message made things even stranger. What was it? A promise? A warning? Or something else? No one knew. It wasn't clear where the picture came from, and its authenticity couldn't be proven. It made people who heard the story wonder more than it answered. Many people told stories about Sergei, a man who seemed to live in a different time. With his sudden appearances and disappearances, the strange photos, and the creepy promise from the future, he made people question what reality is really like. Sergei seemed like he was lost in time. But was he really? Or was it all just a bunch of events and stories that have been told for a long time? Sergei Ponomarenko's whereabouts are still unknown, even though the cops are investigating and have searched for him many times. There have been no new sightings, no solid evidence, and no clear solutions. The secret hasn't been solved yet. but it will be solved one day. Sergei's story is so memorable because of this act of leaving. It's not just about a man who showed up out of nowhere. It's also about how he disappeared again, like he slipped through time. Sergei walked into the hospital and then vanished without a trace. It's just as scary to think that time travel is real. The story doesn't end there, though. It's not just that Sergei Ponomarenko went missing and some strange pictures were found. There are also questions about where the story came from, how it spread, and whether it's more fiction than fact. Urban legend or genuine case? Sergei Ponomarenko's strange story didn't just pop up out of nowhere. A 2012 Ukrainian TV show called Aliens was the first thing that most people heard about it. Sergei's story was told in a dramatic way in an episode called Time Traveler. With the help of actors and special effects, the show brought the tale to life by reenacting parts of his life and the strange events that happened to him. It was meant to be scary and exciting, mixing facts with fiction to keep people interested. But there were clear warnings before each episode of the show. It told people that the stories were based on what witnesses said and were not facts, but just guesses. The people who made it said that the scenes they showed were reenactments and that the ideas they showed were not always true. They told people to think critically and know that aliens and time travelers were not proven to exist by science. When you look more closely at the Time Traveler show, you can see a number of issues. For instance, the date that was shown on the security video was April 23, 2006, which was marked as a Tuesday. That date was actually a Sunday, which is a small but important mistake. In the reenactment, Sergei showed an ID card with the Communist Youth League seal on it, but experts saw that it wasn't the right form that was used in the 1950s. Instead of using a real seal, it looked like the art director had made it for the show. The photo from the future that was said to have been taken in 2050 had the most obvious mistake. A building in the skyline looked a lot like the famous Empire State Building in New York, which is thousands of miles away from Kiev. People who saw the picture thought it looked like it was edited in this way, making it look like it was just copied and pasted and not a real look into another time. Besides these obvious mistakes, the story as a whole lacks solid proof. There have never been any official police reports or papers found that prove Sergei was found in 2006. Outside of the TV show, there are no comments or statements from doctors, police officers, or other witnesses who were involved in the case. There are no records or details about the real Dr. Pavlo Kudrov or the photo expert Vam Poyser when you look for them. This makes you wonder if they exist. Language hurdles and limited access to Ukrainian media make it harder for people outside of Ukraine to check the facts. But these gaps also make it seem like the story may have been made up or changed a lot for fun. This story sounds more like a modern urban legend, one that is told over and over again and gets stranger each time. Even so, Sergei's story got around quickly to a lot of people. Readers love stories about going back in time, aliens, and things that don't make sense. The story of a man who disappeared one time and then reappeared in another place touches on deep fears and dreams that people have. People are interested in it because it makes us think about what we think we know about time, truth, and the limits of science. Sergei's story works well on the internet and social media, where tales and legends spread quickly, because it has a mix of science, mystery, and storytelling. People are naturally interested in the supernatural and the unknown, which makes them wonder what if, and dream about breaking the rules of time. The story continues to make people think and talk, whether it's true or not. Telling stories that aren't quite true can be very powerful, especially when they are based on real events. One of the most well-known and long-lasting stories about time travel, whether it's true or not, is the story of Sergei Ponomarenko. But what about the science behind going back in time? Do any of these things really happen? Or is it all just a story? The next part goes into the real physics that experts look at when they think about how things move through space and time. Next, we'll talk about the scientific ideas behind time travel, including Einstein's theories and the paradoxes that make the idea hard to understand. How does real science fit with Sergei's story? What might be possible in the future? Scientific perspectives on time travel. In stories and science for a long time, going back in time has been one of the most interesting ideas. It has been carefully studied by scientists who want to know if it is ever possible. In the beginning, we learn about Albert Einstein. His special and general theories of relativity changed the way people think about space and time. Einstein proved that time is not the same everywhere and for everyone. Instead, it can bend and stretch based on how fast someone moves or how strong the gravity is around them. This means that time can move more or less quickly based on the situation. This makes it possible to think about ways to travel through time. Closed time-like curve is the name of an idea from Einstein's work. This phrase means a way through space and time that goes around and around itself. There might be a way to go back in time that would lead to the same point in time where the journey began, like a loop in time. These thoughts give us hope that going back in time could be more than just a story. But there are big issues with time travel that are known as paradoxes. The grandfather paradox is the most well-known. You go back in time and try to stop your grandfather from meeting your grandma. That would mean that your parents and you would never have been born. You couldn't stop them if you were never born, though. This difference between the two ideas shows how hard time travel would be to do if it were real. Scientists have come up with creative ways to solve problems like this one. One example is the image of a billiard ball. Imagine billiard balls moving around a ring-shaped table and hitting each other in certain ways. There are no contradictions, because if one ball's path changes, it can be fixed by interacting with other balls in the future. This way, the ball always ends up where it started. This idea says that time might fix itself to stop things from happening that can't happen, so history stays the same even if someone tries to change it. These ideas lead to the idea of time loops or paths that can fix themselves. It sounds like you might be able to go back in time, but the universe would stop any big changes that would mess up cause and effect. You could go back in time, but you could never really change it in a way that would change the future. Even though these ideas are interesting, time travel is very hard to make happen. It would take unimaginable amounts of power and technology that people don't even have now. If you break the rules of cause and effect, which are called causality, the world might act in strange ways. For now, these issues keep time travel in the realm of ideas and stories. This is how Sergei Ponomarenko's story fits in with this mix of science thinking and mystery. His story makes it sound like he actually traveled through time, but there isn't any strong evidence to back it up. It shows how interested people are in breaking out of the straight road of time and seeing what might be beyond. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this mystery, like, share, and subscribe for more. Don't forget to click the next video popping up on your screen. It's packed with even more mind-blowing stories.